You're listening to Blue Collar CEO, the podcast that's all about helping you build a better, more profitable, and more sustainable home service business. Each week, we'll cover a different topic that will help enable your company to move forward to success. And here's your host, Ryan Redding.
What is up, Blue Collar CEOs? It is Ryan, and it is really, really good to be with you today. We have had some really great guests lately that I'm personally super proud of. I'm going to introduce you to someone that I don't know if many of you have heard, but I've heard about from reputation. And when I started hearing about this guy, I thought we got to get him on the show, and I'm so glad we did. I'm going to introduce you to Jim Anderson. Jim started JL Anderson Heating and Cooling in Lafayette, Indiana, some 20-something years ago. He's been in the HVAC business since '85, and he's gone from technician to entrepreneur, currently running just under 50 employees. We're going to be talking a lot about the things that he wished he knew when he was starting out the business. And one of the things that he said it really clearly off the record, and then on the record when it actually hit record, it got a little bit more vague, but just something I want you to pay attention to is this idea that technicians typically don't make good business people. It will hurt your heart a little bit when you hear him say it. Let's get going. All right, Jim, I know you're a very, very busy man. And I'm really glad that we were able to finally sit you down, get you on the show. I can't wait to get going. But I guess first, let's just start. For those who maybe don't know yet who you are, can we just start there? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name's Jim Anderson. I'm from Lafayette, Indiana. And I'm president of JL Anderson Heating and Cooling, and we do commercial, residential, and industrial service and installations as well. And we have nearly 50 employees, and that was after just starting out with myself. That's a short synopsis.
Yeah, look, growing from a lot of people can go from 5 to 20 mil. Okay, that's a legit skill set. But going from just you in a truck doing all the work to getting 50 people that's 50 families depending on you, that's well done, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a lot of effort, still is.
So I'm curious. I was talking to someone yesterday, and kind of the idea came up of if most people went into business knowing what you know now at this stage of the game, you probably would never go into business, right? It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of things you have to take home with you. I'm curious, for you, thinking back on this, 20 something years, why did you decide to do this in the first place? What was that initiative that said, you know what, I'm dumb enough to go open my own business and work for myself? What was that?
Back in the mid '90s, I call them roll up companies, and I worked for a really good company in Lafayette, and it was an awesome company to work for. It got sold. To a roll up company. All the rules changed, everything changed, and I ended up after that I went to go. That wasn't for me, so I left there. I went to go to work for a union contractor. Great company, great construction company. Not so much in service at the time. I was a service technician. Wasn't happy anywhere, and so there just was not a good place to work. I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to load my tools in somebody else's truck again. The company I was working for at that period of time went bankrupt. I saw that the writing on the wall. So what I did, I got with the SBA or whatever you call it, Small Business Association.
Oh, SBA, and there's the SBDC, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they changed the name. I still have the picture from it. So every month through the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, they would have a start up your small business session for 4 hours a month, and I attended several of those. Every time you go, they would have an attorney, maybe a banker, maybe a marketing person, an accounting person, and I learned quite a bit through that. And I think the key the key to the whole thing is I really, for somehow, I had a sense for all the things that I knew what I didn't know, man. And, and that was probably the only thing that I had going for me. Then I also had a lot of mentors that I leaned on. So I got to admit, I knew that I knew the odds of being successful were very low. I had researched that as well, but I couldn't do it anymore. So I was either going to have to change total careers, or I was going to have to do it on our own. Like I said, not a good place to work, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really tough spot all around. And for those, like, I just want to circle back real quick because you mentioned the SBA and the SBDC. I think a lot of people are surprised. So I'll do a little plug for them. During the Reagan years, part of their mandate was to help small businesses succeed. And so they created this organization called the Small Business Development Center, SBDC.
Well, it was. Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and most markets in the United States, including Puerto Rico and whatnot, there are free or low cost advisory centers available to you, paid for by your federal tax dollars. And they do like what you're talking about. They do workshops, they do trainings, they do like whatever, and they can do everything from like, hey, here's how to start a business, and here's how you do like basic payroll. It is a really, really solid, publicly available resource that most people have no idea exists, but do a lot of good. They're usually like embedded within like universities. This is probably like when Indy, you had it available to you. If you're probably in rural Indiana, it might be a little bit more difficult to get, but still there.
Universities here in Lafayette, West Lafayette.
Yeah. Great organization. So when you're debating between, do you want to change careers, learn something else, and pretty much know you have a solid paycheck, you can guarantee where your paycheck's coming from, and
Right.
hey, you might get a good solid 40, 45 hours a week, or hey, you're going to go into the volatility, the uncertainty, the ambiguity of working for yourself.
Well,
how did you help measure like predictability versus like risk and uncertainty? Like, how did you navigate that choice?
Well, it was funny you bring that up, really. It's just dawned on me talking with you. At that point in time, I had said it, I had made a decision. That's what I was going to do. Well, right before all this happened, I had an offer from a company called Eli Lilly, or had a great opportunity to go to work there. I didn't have an offer. I take that back. Also, I had another firm in town, an electrical firm that's well established, still here today. Offered me a partnership to fire up with them and start an HVAC division. Gosh, I had another one too. Yeah, I had a pretty good opportunity that I could have went to work for the train corporation. I had to get in there potentially, but I think that would have involved quite a bit of travel. Keep in mind, this is 23 years ago. And so really, I got a level with it. None of that appealed to me at the time. I just was pretty well headstrong on doing what I was doing. And one thing that I would add too is, I had one shot at it. I was definitely underfunded, for sure. And looking back, it's just, to me, a miracle. So
I think a lot of people are surprised of how expensive it is to start a business, but scaling businesses is expensive. And I think a lot of people are shocked by that.
well, at the time, and can I share the number?
Yeah, go for it. That's your number. So, if you're comfortable.
At the time I had $10,000 in cash. And, so of course I had some retirement put back. So I'm 36 at this point, and, or 37, I forget. And, but really my saving grace is I did have a HELOC on my home for about 70 grand. So, that gave me a little bit of flexibility to where if I did get in a jam, I could take care of everything. And I had super low debt, no car payments, nothing like that. I just had a small mortgage. So we were able to cash flow that. And I also cut my pay in half that year. And I felt lucky to get that, to be honest. So, we started out, day one, right? Purchase orders for material day one on QuickBooks. Day one, went and got an insurance policy. Didn't have a van. I just had a little red truck. I still got today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, it could go on and on and on.
That's crazy. So you're kind of getting this all together, as you know, like you're getting the insurance, you're doing like all the. So I'm guessing like most states, it's you gotta do your LLC, and then you gotta go get your EIN, and you gotta go open a bank account
Right.
where you have all that stuff. Like, okay, so it's and then you're like, okay, cool. So now you have your old truck that you're like you still have.
Yeah.
How now what? Like, how do you have customers? Did you bring customers with you? Did you have to go door to door? Did you call everyone you knew and said, I'm selling Girl Scout cookies. By the way, I can work on your HVAC. Like, how did you start getting the people who would pay you $1?
It was crazy. No cold calling. So at the time, I did a lot of commercial, industrial in Lafayette area, and of course, grew up here. And so when we started, I had I had a job lined up with a trucking company, and it was a sizable project, and so I needed some help. So right out of the gate, I hired somebody. So that was about 3 weeks in. And so I had the trucking company as an account. I had a couple churches as an account. I had uh, Bob Evans at the time was an account
Bob Evans. There you go.
that just kind of lined up. And then so we got to rolling and managing cash like a hawk. Doing the best you can to get paid as soon as possible, and making everything cash flow. I mean, buying. If you needed to buy some material, you buy it on the first. You don't buy it on the 31st. Buy you another 40 days of credit. Just simple stuff like that to be able to manage your cash flow right out of the gate, and that was so important. And then what I didn't realize, what I did not realize is the company that I worked for was a fantastic company and I worked there for 10 years. And so word started spreading that we started a business, and the tech that started with me, he was a top technician as well. And again, there was better technicians in the world than me, but I was pretty decent. And long and short, that word started to spread. And I mean, we started picking up really good accounts in our area. Yeah, big accounts, big names, national name accounts. Even some odd name things for Purdue. But it just really took off, and it was just all off of name recognition, off of I brought a lot of clients to the table just from people hearing about us, and then Dave, my partner at the time, he brought in a lot of clients as well. So um, within a year's period of time, I mean, we were working constantly. So, I mean, and it was this way from the start. The 18-hour day is no myth. It's not every single day. You can't do that. 7 days a week is no myth. Um, there's a lot of sacrifice involved. I mean, I did my best to attend the kids' ball games. I never missed a parent-teacher conference, that kind of thing. But I couldn't tell you how many ball games I went in late and left early, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, it was, I'm not crying about it. It was very difficult. And at the time, it was just the way of life. I didn't think anything about it. I mean, I knew I was working hard, but once I got a leadership team in place, started to get a little management here at our organization, and could chill out a little bit, I really realized I didn't want to do that again.
But you're breezing through something though that I think a lot of people struggle with, right? Which is, I think a lot of guys and women, when you start a business and you're just grinding, you're going, and because as an owner, you have to do whatever it takes. You have to. There's no one else to blame. There's no one else to pass the buck to.
Nope.
That is your circus. Those are your monkeys. And so you do get these 18-hour days. You do get the 7-day weeks. You get the no vacations, like no time off. Like those things are, they're required, unfortunately, to actually get the things going so that you can do what you did, right? Because I feel like a lot of people, they think their solution is, I just need to work more. I just need to work harder. I just need to get more done. But the people who are able to successfully navigate from I need to do more stuff to I need to attract a team of people that I can delegate, trust, and empower, let them carry the weight. And hopefully, if you hire smart people, they will do things better than you.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. No, that's real key right there. You nailed it. I got a team around me, and here it's much brighter than I am, and a lot of them, well, almost all of them are much younger, and I certainly don't. I like the young people. I like the young ideas. I mean, there's plenty of them out there with the go-getter attitude. I get tired of listening to them get bashed all the time. There's good and bad in everything. I listen to what they have to say, and it's shocking. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of people that work in our business that actually have a bachelor's degree, and
Yeah.
and it just, again, I mean, we pay well too. I mean, to attract and retain great people, you got to pay for it. You got to have the benefits. You got to have the retirement. You
Right.
got to have the health.
Right. Right.
You have paid vacations. You got to treat people like a human being. Go figure. Again, we just wanted to create a business. We wanted to create a company that I'd want to work at because that's what was lacking. And that was the only reason I started. I never thought twice about it when I was working for my the company that was really great, and that's I'd worked for another couple companies before that. And when I went into this business, I go, oh, this is how you do it, and I just paid close attention, not thinking that I was going to start a company. It was just that it was just really cool. I mean, everything they did was cutting edge. I mean, at the time, it was in the 90s. We were doing flat rate pricing. I was introduced to a 401k plan, all these different things that, I mean, this company was really cutting edge over its time. And again, that's where I learned to do commercial industrial service. I learned so much, and I owe so much to the owner of that company, which was a mechanical engineer, and just the organization itself. I mean, it was just first class. And then after working there, and it went away, I sold to, like I said, what I call a roll-up company, where they roll up all kinds of little companies across the country. Nothing stacked up after that. And then so what we've done is try to recreate it, and it's ended up being recreated on steroids as it's turned
out. What I know sometimes during the process of building the business, you likely would feel stressed or confused because at some point, like the mentors you had and leaned on, like the SBDC, not knocking the SBDC, but when you're starting off from nothing, it's a fantastic resource. I would imagine that by the time you're 5 mil, 10 mil, like when you have a larger scale, you might find that those resources might not be as helpful, and you need to find other resources, other mentors, other peer groups to lean on. And in the process, you probably can feel confused, disoriented, because there's a lot of new things you're having to figure out. From where you sit now, like looking back on this whole arc, what is something that you wish somebody would have told you then that would have saved you a lot of stress, heartburn, if you only knew it then?
Can I say this? I haven't been shocked. So
really,
I really hadn't been shocked. I had really had paid attention. I knew that I didn't know much about taxes and insurance. I knew that. I got people around me to help me do that. I had discussed this with mentors for a couple years. One of the things that I was told is the biggest, and this is not totally shocking, but this has probably been the biggest hurdle when you start hiring people. You also hire all their personal problems and everything else that comes along with that. And so I would say that, from something that's really been educational, and is dealing with your staff, and that's probably some of the biggest challenges we have here today. Let me say this: our staff right now, as far as I know, we have no rotten apples. So I mean, that's quite a statement with where we're at, because I don't know of any, and nobody's talking about that. So, but they do have their problems, and so if you want to attract and retain good people, you got to pay attention. You got to watch the body language. You got to be able to have a sense of when something's off with somebody, and then if you have this great person, then you got to be able to approach them, say, hey, what's going on? Tap them on the back, talk to me. I can see something's up. That type of thing right there. And, so that right there, we go through that almost every day. I got a couple situations going on with people right now that I'm working on with. I would say one of the things that shocked me more than anything, and don't get me wrong, I'm no uh, financial guy by no means, but working at the company I work for, being introduced to a 401k at a young age, and then really that company helped teach us finance somewhat. Keep in mind, I knew how to balance checkbook, take care of my personal finances, that type of thing. But it really, they'd have, the company come in, whether it be Edward Jones or whoever the heck it was, would come in, on an annual basis and go over money items, right? And then they would actually, try to, instill in everybody how important it is to save money, not just in the 401k, but just overall life skills. My point is, the young people today, and I know this is always said, and maybe it's this way when I was a kid, but I mean, their finances are so screwed up that they, not all of them, and we got some really bright ones, but some of them, I mean, have absolutely no education at all, and I don't know if that's due to high school. I don't know. I don't know if it's just a disconnect with the parents or what the deal is. And I got to admit, I'll say this: I owe my parents a whole lot, for kicking my butt and making me pay attention when I was young, because without them, I wouldn't be here today. That's for sure.
I think one of the themes, like outside of criticizing public education, which is, I'm gonna need some more scotch to have that talk. You seem to have this like posture of like you're always learning. Like you're always learning, you're always investing in people, you're always wanting to attract people and like take care of the people. Like it seems like would it be too much of a stretch to say that maybe those two attributes are like some of the biggest pillars of your success?
Well, I'll leave the success part for others to judge, but it all comes down to people. It's a people business. And like I say, you got to be able to, really, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but hire for attitude, train for skill. And honestly, too, our best people that we have today, when we started, we probably had, one by one, the best technicians in town came to join us, one by one. And we probably ended up with about 6 core people, I'll say. Some of those guys are retired, but those guys trained other guys. Now those guys are training other guys. All right. So what I've learned is, if you don't know real well who you're hiring that would want to pop up from another company or whatever, we've had not, unless somebody in the organization really knows them real well, we have not had good luck hiring others from other organizations. That said, we're not poaching anybody. We don't go approach anyone. But if somebody knocks on the door, we'll talk to them. And I guess what I'm getting at, growing your own team, growing them in your own culture. Every company has its own culture, and you bring them up with your culture, and man, has that paid the dividends? And so we welcome young people, no experience, that are willing to work, willing to learn, and in the HVAC industry, I would say, not just because we're in it, but it is the most complex trade out there. I mean, we get into temperature controls, we get into electricity, we get in control wiring, all the things involved in setting up natural gas, all the things involved in a heat pump, the refrigeration, air conditioning. And I mean, there's no doubt, I mean, Mother Nature's laws, some physics, whatever you want to call, behind it. So it's always changing. It's always bob, weave, adapt. And just like right now, slow time year, we got guys out of town training on ductless splits. This one would be a Mitsubishi. Trains offering some good training right now. We've been training. As a matter of fact, we're doing some training online today with our office staff on dispatch. It's called Dispatch University. They're a company called BDR. So train, retrain, and train.
What was the second one? Train, retrain, train. So yeah, got it.
Yeah, just train. I mean, you just gotta
Train.
you gotta stay on it.
No, it's totally true. There's I think especially when managers are young, I often hear people complain like we just talked about that like 6 months ago or 2 years ago or whatever. Like that's done. Like if you're not getting nauseous, if you're not rolling your own eyes when you're saying it, you're not saying it enough at all. Like got to keep saying it. Jim, what you've built and the way you're building it is really impressive, and I could absolutely see why people. It's like so many people talk about you. I mentioned before I hit record that I have friends of mine in the indie market, which isn't super close to Lafayette, but it's like they know of you by reputation. They know of you of the legacy you're building. If somebody wants to pick your brain and go like, hey, what are 2 or 3 things of advice that they could put into place today that were helpful for you, what might those things be?
Boy, that's a big question. I think there's a lot of different layers to that, but on the simplest thing in the world, just got to know what you don't know, man. You just got to know what you don't know. You can't sit around pretending you know when you don't know, and you got to go find out. And if you can't figure it out on your own, find somebody that can. And somebody will help you. And in the beginning, there's a lot of people want to see you be successful. So I mean, if you pick the right friends, the right mentors, I would say that definitely pick the right mentors and listen to them. Then listen to them, and like I say, if they're credible, then do what the heck they say. The other thing that I would throw out there for anyone, and this is one thing that really scared me to death when I started, and it still does. Got to pay attention to it. You come in our office and we're talking business, we're talking taxes and insurance, and taxes and insurance, man, will eat you up, and you got to pay attention to that stuff, and it's not any fun, and I don't know how, but some reason, um, when you look at the biggest reason that an HVAC company will fail, and it used to be this, just for the record, it used to be restaurants and HVAC companies. If you Googled it, were the first 2 startup businesses not to survive, and I checked that out too in the beginning. I mean, I looked at everything I could, and the long and the short of it is because you have this great technician, and again, in my mind, I thought I was a great technician. I'll leave that for others to decide. Long and short, though, I knew there was a lot more to it in the business side of the fence. And I think that maybe that's what's made us a little special is I knew that. And I knew what I didn't know, and I sought others out to try to help. And they kept me out of trouble. Just by listening to them, they kept me out of trouble. So when you ask initially what my biggest surprise was coming into it, I didn't really have many because I was prepared mentally.
Yeah, I think that's actually really, really well said. And I'm also glad that you did the research on like the failure rate of HVAC. I did. Oh, geez, it's maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, but I studied the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau statistics, like measured all the industries, and then they break down like here's the failure rate of industries, and then they should go into like causality, like what are the things. So I actually wrote an article that's probably slightly out of date, but I bet not too far, about like the top 5 reasons home service companies fail. And yeah, you nailed a couple of them. Not knowing how to do taxes. If you don't know how to pay taxes, that will eat your lunch. Like you will have a very fast, very painful demise.
Done.
But that's one of the top 5, easy. If somebody wanted to pick your brain, schedule a time to go visit your shop, is there a way, Jim, that you would want people to reach out to you if they wanted to hit you up?
Email be best.
Okay. I'll make sure that your email is in the show notes if anyone wants to hit you up. But Jim, I know obviously you're doing exceptional work. You must be very, very proud of the business you're building and the impact you're having on not just like your immediate family and team, but also like the generations that are following and being trained and being trained and being trained.
Yeah, it's fun.
Very impressive to watch.
It's fun. I get into it. I would say that at this point, seeing all the light bulbs come on and whatnot, and I'm learning every day, man. I mean, it is, and I have fun with the team. I mean, that's what my thing's about. And at this point, and so, yeah, it's, and I was going to throw this out there too. there's a little town, Whitestown, north of Indianapolis. We're just getting ready to kick it off here real soon. We got a little satellite store down there that it's about, 45 miles south. So it's just north of Indy, Zionsville, Whitestown. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So we're right there on the new spot. It's right there on Whitestown Parkway. So we're super excited about that.
That's a growing area, if I understand right, isn't it?
It's huge. And again, I mean, it's just kind of a thing for Jen too. Again, I'm 60 years old and the company will be brought up and passed on from the inside out. It won't, we get approached to sell it all the time, and it's not for sale except for internally, because again, then everybody'd end up just like I did. All the people that helped get you to where you are today, essentially they all get thrown under the bus. And our owner that did that, back in the 90s, I really don't believe that he thought that was going to happen, but it did. And so again, it comes back to that culture. And so here we have the team culture, and so that's the way we want to roll. We have to roll. We don't have any room at all for any arrogant team members. If you're arrogant, you don't last here very long. And really, again, every company's got its culture. That's ours.
Yeah. Well said. Jim, it was great having you on. I'll definitely make sure that your email's in the show notes, and congrats for all the success. And also make sure jlanderson.net, if anyone wants to go check out his website and kind of poke around. Jim, great meeting you this way, face to face.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep going at it, man. You're doing exceptional work. Good job.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This episode was hosted by Ryan Redding, author of the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors, and founder of Levergy, the digital marketing solution for serious home service companies. You can subscribe to Blue Collar CEO on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit us online at BlueCollar.CEO and find us on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode. See you soon.